Hey guys, it's your boy Newbie Coder here with yet another Python video. This one's going to be on conditional statements. In the last 3 videos, I talked about how to install Python on your laptop, how to set up virtual environments for your projects, and we talked a little bit about variables and data types. So let's jump right into conditional statements. Now here are my notes. What we're going to go over is basically a few items here. First, we're going to talk about basic if statements, then if else statements, and then if elif else statements, nested statements, ternary conditions, in or not in conditions coupled with these if statements, and then lastly match statements. So it's quite action packed, so I'm excited. Let's jump right into it. So first we're going to start off with just the basic if statements. So I'm going to pull up my terminal here, and I'm in the project directory where I want to work on this file. So you can go ahead and create your file wherever you like. I taught you this neat little trick of opening up VS Code from your terminal, so I'm going to go ahead and execute that, and this way I will have my directory open here in VS Code. Awesome. So let's go ahead and create a Python file. We can call this newbie conditionals.py. You can name it whatever you like. All right, so if statements, right? What are if statements, or what are conditional statements? Now, the way it works is the program needs certain instructions that it can execute, right? So you need to give it a direction of flow, and there could be one way of doing things, or there could be 2 ways of doing things, or there could be multiple ways or multiple directions a program can take, right? So that's what you, as someone who's programming the code, needs to decide what you want the program to do for you. So just to give you an example, if you have a light sensor outside your house, and it detects motion, there's probably some sort of a condition in the sensor which says that if there is some movement detected, go ahead and turn the light on. If there's no movement, do not turn the light on. Okay, so that's just a kind of a high-level example of what those are. Let's look at how they work in Python programming. So we're going to start off with initializing 2 variables. Let's call it x equals to 1 and y equals to 2. Again, this equals to sign means assigning 1 to x and 2 to y. So to write an if statement, what you're going to do is you're going to type in if, and then condition, and then you have semicolon. You go down here. Oops, press the wrong button here. Quit this. So if condition, and then you're going to type execute this code if condition is true. Okay, so just memorize this. That's the logic behind if statements. So first we need to provide this code a condition. So let's say if x is greater than y. Okay, so we have now provided condition, and notice we have this indentation. You need to make sure to do that because Python understands the indent in order to execute it like a conditional statement. Okay, so if x is greater than y, let's print the text here, x is greater than y, right? So let's keep it pretty straightforward. And since this is not a Python code, this won't run, so I'm just going to go ahead and comment this out right here. Okay, so I'm going to run the code, and it did not, notice it did not give me an output, right? And the reason was x equals to 1, y is 2, so x is not greater than y. So this condition was false. That's why it did not run this code, because this would only run if it's true. Okay, so that's the basic idea behind if statement. Let's make this condition true. Okay, so x is now greater than y, and just to prove to you that it's working, so now you can see it printed it out, right? So that's the basic idea behind if statements. Let's go ahead and change that back. Now, what if you wanted to do something else or output something else other than, you know, a blank screen that we got when x is less than y, right? When this is false. So to do that, you can say else and then print x is less than y, okay? It's simple as that. So if the program finds this as false, it won't run this code. It will go to the else statement and it will run this code. Okay, so now that x is less than y, what we'll see is it's going to print x is less than y. There you go. Okay, so that's the else statement. Now let's suppose you have another direction you want this to go, and the three options are x can either be greater than y, x can be less than y, or x can be equal to y. So let's go ahead and put that in there. And the way to do that is, again, quite simple. All you need to do is, instead of else, you type an elif statement and you state the statement you want in there. So in this case, it will be x equals to y. And then what do you want to print out? Let's say x is equals to y. So notice we do two equals to sign. The reason is, like I mentioned in my previous video, this isn't like mathematics. In Python, if you say x equals to 1, that does not mean x equal to 1. That means you're assigning the value of 1 to x right now. Later on in the code, that value can change, okay? But in this case, what you're saying is x equals to y. Like the left-hand side is equal to the right-hand side. So you're making it clear that this is what you want. So now, let's go ahead and make this equal. So I'm going to change this to 2. Now, since x equals to y, you would expect the program to run this piece of code because this condition would be true. There you go. Perfect. So now we've got the basics of if, else if, or elif, and else statements. Let's go back to our notes here. So we got these three done. Nested if statements. All right, so there is potentially, let's say, two other variables. Let's call it a equals to 4, and then let's call it b equals to 5, okay? What you want is, I'm gonna go ahead and comment this out and move this down so it's cleaner. Okay, so let's say you want to check this condition first. So that was this code. But then after this is true, you also want to check a condition between these two variables. We can go ahead and just simply type something like this. So if a is greater than b, then let's go ahead and print x is greater than y and a is greater than b. Okay, so let's go ahead and make this condition true so we get this output. So we're going to make x greater than y, and then we're going to make a greater than b. So let's change that to 6. Okay, so now since this is true, it will run this piece of code, and then since this is true, it will run this piece of code. I'm going to go ahead and run that, and as you can see, x is greater than y and a is greater than b. So that's the concept of nested statements, and you can also put if elif statements and else, etc. in this manner. So now let's look at ternary conditional expressions. So the way ternary conditional expressions work is something like this, right here. Okay, so you can try to memorize that or note that down, but essentially what you're looking at is the result if true, and then you have the if condition, and then you have the else condition, right? So it's kind of hard to tell right now, so let's type it out. Let's say we create a variable called result, and we call it large, okay? And then we say if 2 is greater than 1, then print out large, else print out small, okay? So it's simple statement right here, and let's go ahead and execute that. And my think I made a mistake here. Let me go ahead and try that. So if equals to large result, oh, my bad, I forgot to print the result. Okay, so now let's print the result, and as you can see, it printed out large because 2 is in fact greater than 1. So this is essentially your condition, right? If this was, let's say if this was 1 and this was 2, it would print out small. Okay, so that's kind of how ternary conditions work. As you can see, you can type this out in the basic method as well. So if 1 is greater than 2, result equals to large, else small. Okay, so this is the same thing as typing this code out, but this is in 1 line, this takes up 4 lines. So that's one reason why you would use the ternary expressions. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and comment that out. Let's go back to our notes. Okay, so let's talk about in, not in statements, right? So this is really useful when we have list. So a list is basically a sequence of characters or numbers, or even other list items, right? And what you want to do is you want to check conditions for items within the list. So to do that, let's say we have a list, call it basket of fruits, okay? And let's say we have an apple in this basket, we have a peach in this basket, and then we have a strawberry. Okay, so we have a list of items in a basket, and we named that, and we assigned this list to a variable called basket of fruits. Now what we want to do is we want to check if a particular item exists in this list. So a scenario would be, let's say you have a shop, and in your shop you have a basket of fruits, and then there is a buyer who comes and he asks, do you have an apple in this basket, right? So the way they're gonna ask this question, I guess, is if peach in basket of fruits. So remember last time we did equals to or greater than, but this won't work because peach is not equals to the list, right? Like I said, this is kind of like literally left side is equal to right side. This won't work because peach is an item and this is a list. So you can't use this condition like this. The way to do that is to use an in statement. So we'll check this item in this list. And then you would have your condition, your code that executes if that condition is true. So what you're going to print is, yes, we have peach. It is worth, or it will cost you $10. Okay, so now that we have this list and we have this condition, we would expect this program to say that it does have peach and it will cost $10. So I'm going to go ahead and run that, and yes, we have peach, it will cost you $10. The other way to do this, let's say we change this to a pineapple, right? We don't have a pineapple in this list, so this won't execute. And if you want to test that out, I'm going to go ahead and press, and as you can see, it didn't print anything. But if you want to make this condition true, we can change it to not in. So essentially, pineapple is not in this fruits. So if that's the case, print out, sorry, we do not have that fruit. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and clean that up, and then when I run it, as you can see, it printed out the value here because this condition is now true. So that's how you work with conditional statements in lists. Last item here is the match statement. So the match statement is basically an alternative and a cleaner way of doing if statements if you have many different conditions. So I'm just gonna go ahead and paste that code here. So the way it works is you have a match with an item, and then each case is the case you want to compare with, okay? So for instance, if you say match 2, and you have case 1, case 2, case 3, this equals to this. So then it's gonna print this answer. Okay, so let's go test that. And in fact, it did print 2, right? So if you change this condition here to, let's say, 5, then it won't print out any of these, but it will print out this. This means other, right? So the other way I believe of writing this is other. So if it's another value, then print out by, and it's gonna print out by. Okay, so that's how it works, and you can change this to you know, a word and call it hello, and then in this case it will print hello because hello is in this, it matches this case, and as you can see it prints hello, right? So that's how you can modify this piece of code, and it's if you compare this to the if statements, it's a little cleaner. And I believe this started in Python 3.10 and onwards, so if you're using an older version of Python, then you're probably not going to be able to use this. All right, I hope you learned something today, and I'm excited to continue this journey with you all. Looking forward to seeing you in the next video. Thank you, and bye-bye.